everyone, this is Angela, and welcome to my channel, Angie the ENTJ. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and click on the notifications bell so that you'll know whenever I upload any new content. Today's video is going to be a brief dive into what I understand is really going on with abortion rights from an economic standpoint, and why we are seeing particularly politicians agreeing with going bass backward on the very rights that has made the United States prosperous, especially within recent times in history. So let's get started. First, I feel that it's necessary to establish an empirical truth as a baseline so that we're all on the same page before I go any further. I need everyone to look at what I'm about to say from a very general and very big picture perspective. We all can agree that no matter what a person's orientation or lifestyle may be, doesn't apply to what I'm about to say, that it takes heterosexual activity in order to reproduce another human being. It does not matter if it is the old-fashioned way of guy meets girl, or if it's where a girl does what the Brat and Judy did and goes to the sperm bank, or the guy pays for a surrogate. I think Anderson Cooper did that. Either way, in order to obtain a child, there is a process involved in the creation of that child, right? And at some point, it involves something that the woman has and the man can contribute, right? So it is safe to say that whoever controls heterosexual activity and childbirth controls the nation and its economy, because one of the major aspects of an economy is its labor force, meaning people. So you need to have people. You know, it is one of the key elements in order for the economy to work. You need people. That's the labor aspect for those who are into economics. And then you got to have the resources, and then you have to have productivity, right? So labor is one of the key components. And who nearly loses her life every time she squats out one of these babies? Yep, it's us women. Some of us don't even make it. I personally was almost a person who did not make it and needed to get 2 quarts of donated blood put into my system because I had lost so much of my own. However, that is a story for another time. Going back to childbirth and economic and national control, I want to offer another panoramic perspective on this topic. You see, for an example, companies that earn at least $1 million in profit are typically earning about $43,000 per person in revenue. This means that after all the bills are paid for the company, including that person's salary, this is how much profit the corporation is left with. For companies that earn more than $50 million in profits annually, it is about $230,000 per person in revenue. So again, after all of their expenses are paid, each person that, bear in mind, at some point in time, a woman nearly was unalived by bringing them here via childbirth, earns that corporation about $230,000 per head of humans. You know, cattle can go for about $5,000 per head, and humans for about $230,000 per head. And see, that's on the legal market. When we start talking about sex trafficking, it takes on a different dimension. Girls are being forced to perform quote-unquote acts for as little as $40. And they each have a quota to fulfill every day, or they face the wrath of their pimps. Boys can be sold between $250 and $400 per hour, and there is a 2-hour minimum for the services. I'm sorry if this is disturbing. I'm just telling the truth, and sometimes the truth is ugly. And regardless of how ugly it is, this is something that we need to be aware of so you know what you're dealing with. Babies and small children, can you even imagine, are also being sold for the same purposes. And to top it off, on the black market, there is little to no income to the individual, and the profit margins are even higher. For instance, traffickers, if we want to go international, can sell a girl in Mozambique for just $2. Yes. So a pimp can make her provide services to multiple men a day without compensation, except in the form of brutality, and still profit. In India, it can be $24 for a girl. And in Thailand, one of the top destinations of the passport bros, They can rent a kid who is begging in the street for $25, girl or boy. However, as you move a little bit closer to the West, the laws and accountability is a bit more strict, and that is reflected in the price. So in the UK, yes, a first world country, children are being sold for $25,000. Children, as in girls and boys, okay? And in Colombia, another popular PP Bro destination, they will auction a virgin girl for about $2,600. And in Ontario, they will pay $5,989 specifically for a girl from Quebec. So let's just round it up to $6,000 if she's from Quebec, $6,000. Now, bear in mind, it costs way more to give birth to and also to raise these children than what they are being stolen and sold for on the black market. Additionally, their forced labor is highly profitable to their traffickers. So you can see why these anti abortion people are truly up in arms when women are saying no to being forced to bear the seed of rapists and other forms of degenerates. And hopefully, you can also see how they are afraid of the accountability and transparency that comes with women, particularly mothers, having industries that employ their own children. This stands to shift the political and economic power back into the hands of women, particularly mothers. This would make it more difficult for wars to break out because not only would the mother be sending away her own children to fight and possibly not make it back, but it will also be detrimental to the business. You see, the source of income that they rely on in order to survive as a family. So wars are less likely to break out. Additionally, the standard of living for each individual would be higher, due in large part because they would be wealthier. So instead of mega corporations that deny birth control coverage for women who they employ receiving $230,000 in revenue for each employee, while the same employee has to exist off of a quarter of that revenue as their own personal income, it would instead be the mother and her children and their overall family working together as a company who can enjoy all those revenues and profits. This is the reason for the sudden efforts to control women's bodies and reproductive decisions is because they can no longer benefit from it when women have taken control. They can no longer drug, sex traffic, human traffic, or otherwise exploit a woman's children and then have them being unalived in the streets while living in tent cities. In fact, the exploiters and their handlers will be the ones that are going into poverty overnight when women control who we decide to give birth to. And this brings me to the conclusion that the patriarchy is rooted in economics. Misogyny and religious doctrine are just tools to keep the engine of patriarchy running. This is why I support the West 4B movement, because it breaks patriarchy's mechanism in an irreparable way. And while doing so, help to resolve many of the dysfunctions inherent to it, such as slavery, which is what they are now calling human trafficking. It's slavery by another name. Not only that, there are some fiscal issues that come up. They arise with the management of city, state, and national budgets. Case in point, California has a huge homelessness crisis on its hands, and more than $20 billion in funding that was supposed to be dedicated to helping to solve the homelessness crisis is missing. They don't know where it went to. They can't account for it. $20 billion.
A scathing new report tonight about California's response to the homeless crisis. The state auditor says the state has spent $20 billion in 5 years, but can't meaningfully track the spending or measure results.
To put it into perspective, what you're looking at right now is a 21-unit apartment building for sale on LoopNet.com, which is a popular commercial real estate site. It is located in Beverly Hills. This 21-unit apartment complex costs $18,700,000. It is a property that has mostly apartments that are 2 bedrooms and 2.5 bathrooms. Now, when I perform a quick economic analysis of this situation and take the missing $20 billion and divide it by $18.7 million, okay, and that's the cost of the building, it gives me a number that is close to $1,000 70. Okay. This means, hypothetically speaking, the missing $20 billion could have purchased 1,070 different 21 unit apartment buildings identical to this one, which is being sold in Beverly Hills. And if I were to apply BOCA laws or BOCA regulations, that will mean that about 4 people per unit could reside in it. So if there were actually 1,070 units of this nature, about 89,880 people who are currently homeless could be housed within Beverly Hills according to this economic analysis. It's just basic straight math, nothing complicated. And I mentioned BOCA earlier. For those who are wondering, it is an acronym for the Building Officials and Code Administrators International. And basically, it is an organization that plays a role in establishing and enforcing building codes, or basically the rules and regulations that govern the design and the construction of buildings, as well as how it can be safely occupied. So that's why, different cities that you go to, they have regulations where only 2 people per bedroom can reside in a place safely. So occupancy 4, occupancy 6 for a 3-bedroom, so on and so forth. So back to what I was saying earlier, that $20 billion could have technically housed about half of California's homeless population within Beverly Hills. Okay, so this begs the question, not only where is the money to house them, but also why does this society keep expecting women to risk their lives being in relationships with brutal men who will abandon them as single mothers, only for their children to wind up homeless and human trafficked and drug addicted in the streets of LA, with people claiming to help them through organizations that they use to funnel the funds in order to line their pockets? And I'm purpling in the middle, by the way, so I'm not singling out California, because there was a welfare fraud not too long ago that Brett Favre was involved in within Mississippi, where welfare funds were used to build a tennis building at his daughter's alma mater in Mississippi. Not only that, I've been to nearly every state of the union, and I have been to places overseas as well. I can say that the problem of corruption is global. It is not a left wing or a right wing problem. It is an entire eagle problem, okay? And this is the reason for the rise of the West 4B movement, which I support wholeheartedly, because the society does not value its women or our sacrifices that lead to the prosperity of this nation. Our blood, sweat, tears, all of that is rewarded with threats, intimidation, and jail time by the lawmakers of this land, as well as gaslighting by the society. The MGTOW, men going their own way, red pillars, passport bros, SYSBM, which stands for Save Yourself, Black Men, Kevin Samuels followers, and all the else. All of those peons, at the end of the day, neither one of them were man enough to go face to face with those who are the real problem and the real threat. And in the most unmasculine move ever, they allowed this group of men to say that it's okay for a rapist to turn one of them into uncles and grandfathers through the grape of their daughters and their sisters and their aunts and their female cousins. Okay, you don't have to like being in a relationship with women. Okay, fine, we don't care. But for you to allow the overturning of Roe versus Wade, which makes it okay for a man to come in and grape one of your female relatives, and she has to be forced to carry that child that will eventually become your relative. So you'll be tied to that criminal through the birth of that child. Okay. So no, the well water has run dry, and there will never be anything attractive about a coward. So I will end it here. That's all I have to say for now. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and click on the notifications bell so that you'll know whenever I upload any new content. Take care until next time.